Our chairman, Larry Cohen, is not here this evening, so you got me to do the chair. Let me read the required statement first. Pursuant to Governor Baker's June 15th, 2021 lifting of the state of emergency and following the passing of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, which allows remote meetings of public bodies until April 1st, 2022, this meeting of the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission is being conducted by a remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to or view this meeting while in progress may do so by tuning into the BCAT Government Cable Access Channel, the BCAT Government Meetings Facebook live feed, or you can join the meeting over the phone at 408-418-9388. Meeting number is shown on the screen. To join the WebEx live video conference on the link on the Conservation Commissioner's meeting page or on the Town of Burlington Town calendar, or go to webex.com and join the meeting using the meeting number and password that is shown on the screen. New public hearings that are open tonight will not be closed so as to allow comments from those who are unable to access or are uncomfortable with the technology. Comments and concerns regarding public hearings should be emailed to conservation@burlington.org before the next meeting on January 7th, 2022. And this meeting is being recorded on both BCAT and WebEx. So thank you for bearing with me on that. And here's my agenda. All right, first up here is a roll call of the attendees to verify who is here as conservation personnel. I am here, Bill Boyven, acting as chair tonight. Commissioner Gail Lima.
Here.
Commissioner Ed Laturco. Don't hear you, Ed.
Unmute.
Okay.
Here.
You're here. Commissioner Jennifer O'Reilly. Jennifer? Not hearing you.
Present.
Okay, there you go. Commissioner Dawn Bernstein.
Here.
All right. And Conservation Administrator John Keeley.
Here.
And Assistant Administrator Eileen Coleman.
Here.
Okay, so that takes account of everyone who is here. I would like to announce first, before we start any items, that there have been some items that will be continued. First is item 4B on the agenda, 64A Middlesex Turnpike, the N-Star Electric Company DBA Eversource Energy for expansion and upgrade of an existing electrical substation. That will be continued till our next meeting. May I have a motion to continue that?
So moved, Ed.
Second, Gail.
All right, let's go through the voting. Gail?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so 5-0-0 to continue that to the next meeting. Next item, confirm that this is correct, John. The item number 9, is being continued?
It is.
Okay, so item number 9, a notice of intent for 130 Lexington Street, the Islamic Center of Burlington, to remove, fill, and restore a buffer zone DEP 122663 is being continued. May I have a motion to continue that hearing?
So moved, Gail.
Second, Don.
Second, Ed.
Okay, let's go through the vote. Eileen?
Gail says yes.
Oh, sorry. Looking at my list here and I got that in the wrong point. Gail says yes. Ed?
Yes.
Okay. Jennifer?
Yes.
Dawn? Didn't hear you.
Yes.
Okay, and the chair says yes, so 5-0-0 for continuation of item 9. And the last thing I want to mention is items 13, 14, and 15 continued public hearing for a notice of intent on the Redmond Street roadway to construct a new road with stream crossing, and 4 Redmond Street, construct a new single-family dwelling, and 5 Redmond Street to construct a new single-family dwelling, are all asked to be continued to the next meeting. Could I have a motion to continue those 3, please?
So moved,
So
Gail.
moved, Ed. Second, Ed.
Okay, let's have a vote. Gail,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Dawn,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. That's a 5-0-0 to continue items 13, 14, and 15. Okay. Next up is item number 2, citizens' time. Is there anyone here on the screen or on the phone who is here for something that is not on the agenda? Now is your chance. Let the record show that no one stepped forward. All right, so now we go to item 3, approval of minutes for the meeting of December 9th, 2021. Is there any comments or edits that need to be done? Hearing none, may I have a motion to
Just the
approve?
ones that Bill sent earlier, a couple of minor ones.
I sent a couple minor ones, yep. I actually have to say this, I actually love the fact that the computer corrected NOAA, N-O-A-A, to N-O-A-H. And they both, of course, have serious concerns with flood control, so I thought that was pretty good. So anyways, a motion to approve the minutes, please.
So moved, Don.
Second, Ed.
Okay, let's have the vote, please, to approve the minutes. Gail,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Dawn,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Minutes are approved 5-0-0. All right, now we can get down to some real business. First up is item number 4A, request for determination of applicability for 79 Mill Street. I need to read the legal notice on that. Notice is hereby given that the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission is holding a WebEx virtual public meeting tonight, 7 p.m. At this meeting, the Conservation Commission will act upon a request for determination of applicability filed by Suresh Damodaran. The commission will take all information relating to the proposed removal of 4 trees within the riverfront area of Sawmill Brook and the buffer zone to bank and bordering vegetated wetlands at 79 Mill Street in Burlington, Massachusetts, and will thereafter issue a determination of applicability. The application is being heard pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, which is the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Burlington Bylaw, Article 14. To obtain a copy of this application, email conservation@burlington.org. Okay, is there someone here for this project at 79 Mill Street?
Oh, yes, sir. This is me, Suresh Damodar.
Good evening, Mr.
Good
Damon.
evening.
Good evening. Would you like to give a brief description of your project, and then we'll go from there?
Oh, yes. Do you want me to share the application itself, or you already have it?
We already have it. We have a copy of it and the drawings of where the trees are, and we also visited the site.
Okay. Yes. So we bought the property recently, so we're still being worked on. So these trees are there were 2 dead trees and one double oak and a pine. And the dead one of the dead trees actually already fallen a few days ago in the wind. So luckily it spared the house by probably a couple of feet. So we really have only 3 more trees at the moment. Those are the ones right behind and there are the oak, the double leader oak, and the pine tree. And there's a dead tree at the back. So these double leader oak and the pine tree are seem to be in somewhat bad shape, according to the arborist who gave a letter to say that it could be dangerous to people living in the house and the house itself. So that's the status. And this is is next to that creek, the Sawmill Creek. And we would like to move the house, and we're somewhat afraid to move before this thing is cut, so.
Okay, thank you very much for that summary. Let's go to our staff first to see if there is any comments.
So the commission visited the site yesterday. We saw the trees. We were a little confused about the elm, or yeah, I think it was an elm. So that explains it. It had already fallen, so we weren't sure which one that was. But you also have a letter from Marquis Tree, from an arborist, John Marquis, from our Marquis Tree, saying that the trees are dangerous. So and recommend that you approve the removal of the trees.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from commissioners who were at the site or who have seen the plans? Gail?
I think I'm okay with removing these trees because this is a riverfront that it would be nice to plant some trees on the property to replace the ones that are removed, in an area that would be safe to the house.
You think 1-to-1 would be a reasonable replacement?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so 4 coming down and 4 planting of some sort of a native tree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ed, any comments?
I couldn't make the site, but I did go through the report and whatnot on it, and I have nothing to add.
Okay. Jennifer?
Nothing more to add. I think the 1-to-1 replacement sounds like a good plan.
Okay, and Dawn?
Nothing else to add.
Okay. Yeah, I agree that the trees were either dead or had serious crotch, that might pose a future problem. And the large pine that had been cabled at one point has got a serious wound all the way around it that may cause some serious future problems. And that is a big tree close to the house that you don't want left there with any kind of issues. So I think we can very confidently approve the cutting of those trees. I asked the applicant, are you amenable to planting 4 trees, some kind of native tree? You can always ask the staff what would be a suitable tree somewhere on the
Yeah, sure.
property. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back there is plenty of space to plant trees, so.
Yeah, exactly. And
Can I just chime in? Would that be okay?
Yes, please.
Bill, Mr. Damodaran, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. He actually told me that a pine fell. I didn't realize it was one of the 4. So given that actually he's taking down 3 trees, is that correct, sir? I'm just wondering if we should just be saying replant 3. I'm open. I'm just suggesting.
Right. There were now there are 3 remaining trees. 1 is already dead.
Okay.
And the 2 are live trees.
All right. So there's actually only 3 trees that have yet to be cut. Okay, then a replacement of 3 trees would be fine. Yep. All right. So do we have a document that we can read to close this out? All right, you're going to go over the findings, Eileen or John?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought John was. I will, of course.
Actually, I just started doing it. I'm sorry, I had myself muted. I was halfway through it already. I'll start over again. So the findings just discuss what we've already discussed, the number of trees and their location in the inner riparian, the inner riverfront area. Then there's a proposed negative determination of applicability with the following conditions. Basically, no other trees should be removed other than the trees that have been discussed and approved under this decision. Condition 3 is regarding the actual removal process. That I would imagine there'll be a vehicle out front with a crane, because that pine tree, the pine tree's going to have to come up over the house. But in any event, we obviously want the truck parked either on the lawn or in the driveway or in the street. Condition 4 is regarding the stumps. So except for any tree within the lawn area, we don't want the stumps removed, and we would prefer to have snags removed, snags in place. So a snag is a portion of the trunk for wildlife habitat. And Marquis knows what that means. So condition 5 is regarding the replanting. So Eileen just edited it from 4 to 3. And they should be native trees, and you can consult with us on species. And then the other conditions are just standard conditions about dumping, use of pesticides near wetlands, the commission's right to access the site to do inspections, and a condition about noncompliance.
Okay, Mr. Damodaran, do you have any current concerns or questions about those items?
I have one comment. Eileen, the parcel is showing as 1834. It should be 1838.
You know, I corrected it on the actual determination, but I had already put this into the shared. Yes, I have that. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Got
Thank you.
Okay.
Otherwise,
so-
I have
Continue, sorry.
no.
Getting-
Besides that, I have no concerns. I'll be happy to comply.
Very good. Thank you very much for your cooperation. So we can go to a vote on whether we should approve this negative request for determination of applicability here. Let's go here. Gail, how do you vote?
Yes,
Ed,
Yes,
Jennifer,
Yes.
Dawn,
Yes.
chair votes yes. So your negative determination of applicability is approved, 500. And the negative just means you do not have to do anything greater in this process that is done. So don't be, a lot of people think negative is bad. In this case, it's not.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir, for your cooperation, and good luck taking the trees down.
Thank you.
All right, we now move on to item 5. This is a continued public hearing on the stormwater erosion and sedimentation control bylaw for 70 Winter Street, the Town of Burlington Department of Public Works to construct a new water treatment and pump buildings. Who is here for that project this evening?
Good evening. This is Tom Hayes, the town engineer. And
evening,
I'm
Mr.
here for
Hayes.
the Mill Pond PFAS erosion control permit. And with me is John Sanchez, the Director of Public Works, as well as Amy Coppers Constantino, who is from Wright Pierce. She's our design engineer. So hoping to wrap up tonight. It's a very important project for us. So if there's any questions, we're here to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to staff and see where we are on this project.
Okay, that'll be me this time. Amy sent us some updated documentation as requested. The only question that I have that's outstanding is we had asked the last time whether they could look into dispensing of the liner for the biofiltration, and I don't think we got a specific narrative on that. But the rest, otherwise, the stormwater report that they updated and anything else was fine, and they provided everything else that was asked.
And I apologize, Eileen, if I didn't get back to you on that, but the goal of the liner is due to high groundwater there. The basins are designed to filter the stormwater and then discharge it to the drainage system. We anticipate the groundwater to be below grade in some areas of, about a foot. So it would actually, flood those stormwater basins if we didn't have them lined.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other changes since our last meeting that can be described?
Since our last meeting, the only changes that we incorporated into, and I can share my screen, is we did, let me see if I can do that. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll just zoom in here. So the only additional change that we did was we did increase the area of the access way into the proposed site. So here's the PFAS treatment building, and why we did that is because we're going to have large trucks that need to access this building for media removal and replacement. And so in order to get a truck off the street, we had to kind of widen this entryway, because then they have to kind of navigate between this existing structure and the new building. So we did increase the impervious here. The stormwater report was updated to account for that area, and a tree box filter was incorporated into the design to accommodate the stormwater runoff from this location, because the grades did not allow us to kind of redirect it to this bioretention area.
The description of that said there was a swale that feeds the tree box. Can you point that out, please?
Right here.
So that depression, more or less, but that is in the
Yep.
paved area?
Nope, the paved area is this shaded portion right here. So this is
Okay.
the existing paved area,
Yep.
and we're increasing it in this area, and then the runoff is going to this tree box filter rate at this location.
Okay, and that area that with that runoff and is a grassed area?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Okay. Okay, so that describes the changes that we have. And let's see if I had any other notes on this. Tree box line. I do not. Okay, so let's go to the commissioners and see if there are any other, I'm sorry, anything else from the staff?
No, they also updated their O&M plan to mention keeping up with the tree box as well.
Okay, yes, good. Let's go to the staff and see if they have any more comments before we move to close this out. I'm sorry, the commissioners. Gail?
No, I think they've addressed everything we talked about before.
Okay, Ed?
Nothing to add.
Jennifer?
Nothing to add, thank you.
And Dawn?
Nothing more.
Okay. I certainly appreciate all the work that you folks have put into this. It's a very important project for the town, and it's moving along, at least on paper, pretty quickly. So I'm pleased to see that, and I think we'll be happy to do our part. So I think we have answered our questions. So we need to close the hearing. No other comments? I will make ask for a motion to close.
Do you want me to just go over the draft decision first?
Before we close the hearing? Okay.
Oh,
You can do it either way. You can
Either
close
way?
the hearing first.
that's fine. Sorry,
Okay.
Cole.
Just in case there's new input coming in, we want to make sure we close the hearing here. All right, so let's have a motion to close the hearing, please, on this project to build a new addition to the water treatment plant.
So moved,
So-
Gail.
Second, Don.
Okay, let's have a vote, please. Gail, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. So the hearing is closed. So now let's go over the draft decisions, and then we can vote on accepting those.
Okay, I shared this with the applicant and with Amy earlier. So if there's anything up here where the numbers look wrong, it's probably just because this iteration was uploaded before Amy and I had that conversation. And she and I can just check in tomorrow about the numbers to make sure everything I have is 100% correct. So
Okay.
it was filed for the construction of a building for PFAS treatment and a building, a transfer pump station building at the existing Mill Pond Water Treatment Plant at 70 Woodger Street. This project will cause an increase impervious surface by about 9,705 feet. And water treatment will be achieved through construction of 2 sediment forebays and lined bioretention areas with a swale around the top of one building to direct water into one of the bioretention areas. Stormwater from the rest of the site will be routed through the existing stormwater system. This goes through the filing history. This describes where they met each of the stormwater management standards. This lists all the various plans that were submitted for this project. There were quite a lot, including the stormwater management plan that was last updated, in fact, today. Any changes to those plans would be submitted to the Conservation Department for review. Most of these are just standard. The first several are standard conditions, so I won't go through them each in detail. The Commission must be notified at least 1 week prior to the commencement of construction to schedule a pre-construction meeting to occur at the work site. The next batch of conditions are standard ones about pollution prevention, referring to cleaning of equipment and no discharge of fuel or oil. The next ones are about erosion control. The applicant shall install erosion barriers on the pavement and vegetated land, coinciding with the limit of work on the property. The applicant shall notify the conservation staff when the erosion controls are in place. No other work shall begin until the required erosion controls are properly installed. The Commission reserves the right to require addition, erosion, or under damage prevention controls if deemed necessary. The next ones are standard ones about restabilizing the surface, and that material shall not be allowed to run off into the street. Grading shall be completed in such a way as to not direct volume onto the property of others. Silt sacks shall be required on Winter Street if there's a silt sack, if there's a catch basin within 100 feet. Stone entrances not less than 50 feet long or less than 20 feet wide shall be installed as shown in the above reference plan. And we will require a weekly written report to the Conservation Department about referring to site inspections. Then the next batch of conditions are all about stormwater management. Rooftop runoff shall be infiltrated on site per the reference plans. Any soil pits must be witnessed by the Board of Health. Installation of all drainage structures shall be witnessed by a PE. The property owner shall adhere to the operation and maintenance plan which they have provided, and the property owner shall submit maintenance records to the Conservation Department. Property owner shall be notified of maintenance requirements and must adhere to the O&M plan, and that O&M plan shall be recorded at the Middlesex Registry of Deeds.
Burlington.
And then upon completion of construction, the applicant shall submit detailed as-built plan to the Conservation Commission. Does anybody have any questions or edits?
You representatives from the town, you're all set with that?
Yes.
From the water department? Okay.
Yep.
Oh, sorry,
right.
that meant me.
That's right, you're from the town too, I'm done. Okay, so Tom, John, Amy, you're all set with those conclusions there?
Yep.
Yes.
Very good. Then let's put this to a vote, please. Can I have a motion to accept the, to approve the erosion and sedimentation control permit for 70 Winter Street, the Town of Burlington Department of Public Works, to construct the new water treatment and pump buildings?
So moved, Gail.
second, Don.
All right, let's have a vote. Gail?
Yes.
Ed?
Bill, I'll definitely give you my vote, but I just want to make sure I did look at last month's meeting. So I did follow those minutes too. I vote yes.
Very good. Thank you for that clarification. Jennifer?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes,
And the chair votes yes. So the erosion and sedimentation control permit is approved.
Thank you very much.
Very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Great. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Good luck with that project.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, now we can move on to item number 6. This is a new public hearing, so I will read the notice. Notice is hereby given that the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission is holding a virtual public meeting tonight at 7 p.m. At this meeting, the Conservation Commission will act upon an application for a Burlington Wetlands permit filed by Tamara Eller Martins of 9 Carey Avenue, LLC. The commission will take all information relating to the proposed demolition of the single-family dwelling and construction of a new dwelling within the buffer zone to locally regulated, isolated, vegetated wetlands at 9 Cary Avenue in Burlington, Massachusetts, and may thereafter issue a Burlington wetland permit. The application is being heard pursuant to Burlington Bylaw Article 14, and the application may be viewed at the Conservation Commission website. Good evening. Is there someone here for this project?
Yes, hello. My name's Julia Hogeboom from LEC Environmental. Also on the line tonight is Pedro Shimizu from Gallus Simon Associates, our project engineer. And the homeowner is also in the audience, Tamara Martins.
Okay.
So
Welcome to
Pedro
you.
and I will be discussing our project at 9 Cary Ave. Like you said, it's to raise and rebuild a single-family dwelling, portions of which are located within the buffer zone to an isolated vegetated wetland. Is it okay if I go ahead and share my screen?
Yes,
I'd like to
indeed.
share the proposed plan. Okay. So give me 1 second. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so this is the existing conditions plan. The property is located within the west central portion of Burlington, and it's surrounded by residential development. The southern portion of the property contains a single-family dwelling with a paved driveway. And there are walkways from the paved driveway to the front entrance of the dwelling and to 2 rear entrances of the dwelling, with concrete paths at each entrance. The dwelling is surrounded by lawn and landscaping. And the northern portion of the property is undeveloped and contains a narrow band of forested upland and a forested, isolated, vegetated wetland. Topography within this developed portion of the site is flat. And then there is a abrupt break in topography descending from the backyard into the wetland with an elevation grade of roughly 3 feet. So I did delineate this wetland this past August. Vegetation within the wetland contains red maple, catalpa, ash, northern arrowwood, sweet pepper bush, and the ground cover consists of cinnamon fern, wood fern, jewelweed, and rough stem goldenrod. So just your typical forested wetland. So because the wetland is isolated, it's not subject to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, but is regulated under the Burlington Wetlands Bylaw. So it places the 100-foot buffer zone onto the property. I went ahead and highlighted the buffer zones for you. So this is the 100-foot buffer zone. We also have the 40-foot no building zone and the 25-foot no disturb zone. So that's it for the existing conditions. Let's go ahead and pull up the proposed conditions here. All right, so the homeowner would like to raise the existing dwelling and construct a new dwelling with a porous driveway and an attached garage. There will be a porous walkway that extends from Cary Avenue to the front entrance of the dwelling and a proposed front porch. There's also a deck proposed off the rear of the dwelling. Minor site grading is proposed for the new dwelling of less than 1 foot. So the dwelling and the walkway and the driveway, that's all located within the 100-foot buffer zone. And no work is proposed within the 40-foot no building zone except for a portion of the minor site grading of less than 1 foot. So all work will occur within the existing lawn. There's no trees to be proposed to be removed. So existing lawn, the existing footprint of the house, and the driveway. And we are proposing erosion controls along the limit of work to protect the wetland. And to mitigate for the increase in impervious area, we are proposing stormwater management. So I'll go ahead and pass the torch off to Pedro, who can describe the stormwater management design for the house for you all.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Oh. Pedro, sorry, we can't hear you. Or maybe it's just me.
No, I cannot hear him. Does not show you as muted on the, according to my screen, but I still can't hear you.
Pedro, I can take a stab at explaining the stormwater management while you figure that out. And if the commission has any questions, hopefully you can get your volume figured out by then. So, and I am not a stormwater engineer, so bear with me while I describe this, but essentially the stormwater is going to be directed into the porous pavement in the driveway and the walkway. And it's been designed such that the stormwater rates have been reduced or maintained for the 100-year storm event. And I did have a discussion with Gala Simon Associates earlier today. The reason why they did not design a full stormwater infiltration system for the project is because the groundwater is about 3 feet down. So they would have to raise up the system. So there's not enough room between the groundwater level and that. If they did put something in there, there wouldn't be enough separation between the groundwater and the actual stormwater system. So I guess, I mean, I'll turn it over to the commission, and I'd love to hear any questions that you might have about stormwater management or about any other aspect of the project too. Let's do that.
I just have one question about the actual design of the stormwater management. The text said runoff from, quote, a portion of the building of the dwelling will be directed to the driveway. So is that half of the roof line is going to go that way and half is going towards what says a downspout on the other side?
So that is a good question. Pedro, are you still on mute, or? I can pull up the stormwater report as well. Let me do that. But I do believe that it's.
You can call in on a phone. You can call in on your phone at the phone number that we showed if you want to, and get audio that way.
Oh yeah, that would be helpful.
We can go to our staff and have them talk about it until he comes back and can answer some more questions.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, so we did a site visit yesterday. The wetland delineation looked fine. I do agree that it's an isolated wetland. We did see a pipe on the adjacent property, but we did some research and it appears that there's a drain pipe that goes through the adjacent property, and they put in a pipe possibly to take in overflow from the isolated wetland on your property and to then discharge into a drainage system. So everything looks good. My only concerns are really regarding the porous pavement. I mean, I think it's a great idea in theory. I think in practicality, though, for a single family house, the danger of somebody seal coating that driveway down the road 5 or 10 years from now is just so great that it'll be a porous driveway for only 5 or 10 years, and then after that, it won't be.
Can I jump?
I-
Can I respond to
Sure.
that? Or
Yes.
Sure.
we did have a discussion about that earlier, and I think the homeowner would be open to installing some sort of placard in the actual driveway itself. And we can think of the wording, but something like, you know, do not seal coat or use this type of treatment on the driveway, like in perpetuity. And we would be open to that, having that as a condition possibly too. So that way if the property is sold, any future homeowners would know that, you know, it's a special type of driveway that needs a certain type of treatment. So that's just one idea that we had discussed.
Right.
Okay. Was Pedro able to call in yet? Do we have audio? I'll take that for a no.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Oh, there you are. Yes.
Yay.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry for that technical complications here. I got just a new laptop and it wasn't set up. Okay, so yeah, Julia, thank you so much for going over the numbers. And yeah, about the proposed porous driveway, we're open to suggestions. We could, instead of making a pavement and having the issue of having it coated, we could use porous pavers like we're using on the walkway. We have the detail on our plan, on our drainage plan. So Julia, I'm gonna ask you to go roll down a little bit so it can show the commission, the detail. So that's gonna be the porous pavers walkway and could be also the driveway. So instead of having an asphalt, we have this pavers and there's small openings of 3/8 a joint space. And then that could be a solution. I don't know
That would be
your
great.
thoughts are.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. Yeah, we can certainly change that detail in our plan and get rid of that bituminous porous pavement and just apply for both walkway and driveway, the porous pavers.
Excellent.
Pedro, how about my question on how the roof runoff is split between the two sources, one going on the pavement and one off to a downspout?
Yeah, so we had to infiltrate around 200 square feet of the roof because we're comparing in our hydrological model. So roof downspout onto porch roof. Yeah, so we're gonna direct the porch roof outside to the other corner, and then that we won't have another portion of the roof going into the porous driveway. Only the one in the bottom left downspout going into directly onto the driveway.
And that downspout captures the entire dwelling roof, just
No.
excluding the porch?
Yeah, it's just like a small portion, and it's gonna exclude the porch and a bigger portion of the house. It's gonna be like around 200 square feet of infiltrated area into the porous driveway.
Okay. All right, any other comments from the staff? If not, I will go to the commissioners for their comments. All right, Gail.
Thank you. So yes, that was going to be my comment, but suggesting you put pavers, and so I think that'd be a great solution, because there are a couple things that concerned me with the driveway. Not only what John said about the potential future owner sealing it, but also there was a requirement for it to be professionally vacuumed every year, and I just don't see a homeowner doing that, having that done, and I think the pavers would solve the problem. The other question I have is, in looking at the plan, there is, let me see if I can find my diagram. Okay, so there's shown on the plan these two sections of wood stockade fence, and I did go out there. I don't remember if it was there. I'm sure it was if it's on the plan. Those are part of that property, is that correct? Those two sections on either side?
Are you talking about the 6-foot wood stockade
I guess so,
fence?
yeah. It has one on one side and one on the back, kind of edge on the opposite side, right?
Yeah, so I would think that the homeowner owns that fence, but it
Okay,
does
so my
need-
question is, I don't know what kind of shape it's in. Is it in good shape, or? So the reason why I'm bringing it up is that you have these two disconnected portions of fence that somebody might go, oh, let me complete this so I have a nice fenced in yard. And I'm concerned that they would go beyond the 20-foot no disturb by doing that. It might be nice to either take that fence down except that we don't want to disturb the 20-foot, or putting in a split rail that goes in front of the 20-foot no disturb. So the, area of yard that can't be disturbed is defined, and so that everybody knows, don't go back there.
I just bumped Julie off just so you could see, Gail. This is a photograph of some of the existing fence.
Yeah.
Not in great shape. I think,
No, it's not in great shape. So, but maybe like the part that extends beyond the 20-foot, or I don't know. I'm just concerned that somebody would, put a couple posts up to shore the sides and say, hey, I just need to, fence off the back, and I've got a great fence now for my dog or something like that. And next thing we know, they've extended into the 20-foot no disturb.
Yeah, sure. I think the homeowner would be open to some sort of demarcation. Would the commission be open to concrete markers demarcating the 20-foot no disturb zone, or would you prefer the split rail fence?
So I'm, up to suggestions. I think if the one reason why we tend to like some type of split rail or something is to prevent people from dumping waste into the, and so generally it'd be a fence without a gate so that you can't push a wheelbarrow past it.
Sure. I think the homeowner would be open to that as a condition, or yes.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Ed, any comments?
I like the pavers. I can honestly say, just my own personal experience in our place, I love the way they absorb water. The elevations themselves, I don't see any change in it, so it pretty much stays the same around the house.
There is
There's no fill.
Minor site grading, but it's less than a foot. You can see that contour here. But it goes up to elevation 47.
Julie, I knocked your sharing off. Sorry, so you'll have to reshare it. Sorry about that.
Yeah, let me go ahead and pull that up. Let's see. All right, so yep, there is minor site grading of less than 1 foot. So it's at elevation 47, but just to give you an idea, the surrounding elevations, it's 46.46, 46.69, so it's less than a foot of grading.
Okay. So it basically hasn't changed much from the original to what you're going to be proposing.
Exactly.
Okay. That's all I had.
All right, Ed, thank you very much. Jennifer?
Sorry about that. I don't have anything more to add. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Don?
No, nothing more.
Okay, so it's
Bill, one additional thing. If you'll notice, the basement floor elevation is only a couple feet lower than the garage floor elevation, so there isn't really a full cellar excavation on this either.
Aha, okay. That sort of leads into one of the questions I had, is will there be filling, any kind of substantial filling to raise the elevation of the basement level up to 45, underneath the house?
I don't know. I do know that the homeowner is also the contractor. Tamara, I don't know if you can fill us in on whether or not the existing foundation, if there's going to be any fill to reach that basement level.
Yeah, we'll do, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll do what is necessary for everything to match the plans and the proposed grading according to what we have from Al Gala and our architectural plans and engineering.
Because it looks like that basement floor elevation is higher than the existing basement floor elevation.
Yeah, so we have to do filling.
Okay,
Yeah, so we do understand that.
all right.
That has to be done.
And there is not a full basement under this then, is more of a crawl space or whatever of the 2 feet.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
I like the porous the pavers, that's a great idea. I definitely would favor the post and rail fence, again, to prevent mowing and dumping in that beyond the 20-foot marker. There was a shed on the property. Am I correct in remembering that there was a shed there? And if there was, is it being torn down?
Yeah, it's being removed. I think it already has been.
Yeah, the shed has already been removed.
Already gone. Okay, I just saw it on one of the aerial photographs I was looking at, so it must have been dated a bit. Any planting plan at all for new trees or shrubbery or anything? Or is that just to be defined in the future?
No planting plan at this time, no.
Okay, I certainly would encourage you to put some kind of, greenery in there to help the environment, both visually and functionally. And overall, I thought this was an excellent plan, that it was very thorough, very professional for a single-family house. It's one of the better plans I've seen, so I did like that a lot. Oh, one more question. I see there's a sump pump, and where is that emptying to? Just out to the grass?
I believe so, yeah. I think it's just emptying out onto the grass. It's very flat there, so I don't believe the engineer needed to put any gravel or anything like that, pay drill. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And so we set the basement level to be 2 feet and 2 inches away from the high groundwater table that we found at 43.4 when we did our soil test, and the basement is at 45.57.
Very good plan to do that. Okay, so that is all that I have. So we will not be closing this because it's a new hearing. Is that correct, John?
That is correct.
That is correct, to give people who are not able to deal with the technology of calling in and all that stuff, to have a chance for them to comment. So we will plan to close at our next meeting, which is January 27th.
So this is a public hearing, Bill. You should see if there's any comments from anyone in the
Yes,
audience.
thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience or on the phone who would like to have a comment on this project? Hearing none, then I'll take that for a no. All right, so can I have a motion to continue this until continue this project for notice of intent 9 Cary Avenue for demolish a dwelling and construct a new dwelling, continue it to our next meeting, January 27th.
So moved, Don.
Seconded.
Let's do a vote. Gail?
Yes,
Ed? Jennifer?
Approve.
Dawn,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes, so this item is continued to our next meeting. We will certainly be able to close at that point unless anything comes up, and I don't think it will. So
Great.
thank you very much
Thank
for your
you.
time tonight.
Thank you.
See you too.
We'll try to get a draft decision emailed to you before that meeting.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening.
All right, next up is item number 7, continued public hearing for a notice of intent, 7 Freeport Drive, Oswin Javeri, construct a residential addition, DEP number 122664. Is someone here for that application?
Yep, for the record, Stevie Cavallo of Farland Corp. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so we've been before the commission several times with this project. At the last public hearing, you have asked just for some additional information with regards to the roof recharge systems. We've since provided some of the manufacturer's information, and other than that, there's been no change to the design plan. But if there are any additional questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
John or Arlene, do we have any comments on this?
So the main reason that this was continued was just so that they could address the outstanding issue that DEP raised about whether or not the infiltration systems the infiltration system would be able to withstand inundation during a 100-year flood, since it's in the floodplain. So they provided information that it's basically a system that's designed to be under parking lots with a lot of weight over them, which seems to me more than enough for this application.
Very good. Okay, I go to the commissioners. Let's reverse order. Dawn, any comments on this?
No further comment.
Jennifer?
No further comment.
Ed?
No, nothing.
Gail, anything further? Didn't hear you, Gail. Still can't hear you. No, okay. And I have no further comments on this either. So this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that has any comments for this project at 7 Freeport Drive? There is none. Then can I have a motion to close the hearing for the notice of intent application at 7 Freeport Drive, DEP 122664?
So moved.
So moved, did.
Second, Gail.
Second.
Okay. Let's have a vote. Gail?
Yes, please.
Ed?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
And Dawn?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so the public hearing is closed. Okay, can we have the report on the closing, please?
Sure. So we'll start with the findings. So the project description is an addition on sonotubes with the existing house, which is being renovated, will have the flood vents added to it for additional flood storage. Filing history. Let's see, I'll go down to the resource area findings on page 2. So this is in the riverfront of Sawmill Brook, which is under our bylaw has a riverfront area, and its status under the Wetlands Protection Act is undetermined at this point. The commission's finding that the work within BLSF, bordering land subject to flooding, will meet the performance standards because the addition will be built on pilings and in the existing dwelling will be retrofitted to allow flood storage under the building, which the current building does not. The addition of the flood vents will more than compensate for the volume of the actual footings in the floodplain. The commission also finds that the underground infiltration system will not be structurally compromised if inundated during a major flooding event. Other than lawn, no vegetation within riverfront area would be impacted by this project. The applicant will have a condition to cease mowing beyond the fence other than a 4-foot swath as a riverfront improvement. Then the other findings are fairly standard findings. And the bylaw conditions include a proposal, if you just scroll down, for a bond of, there you go, $3,500.
Okay.
On to the order of conditions.
Yep.
Plan references, once again, are the same as on the bylaw. Pre-construction conditions are fairly standard. Erosion control conditions, we're requiring 12-inch wattles. It is a fairly flat site, so we're not requiring hay bales and silt fence, but we are requiring straw wattles. Pollution control conditions are all fairly standard. And once again, this draft decision was provided to the applicant this afternoon. So if we're going too fast, let me know. But Stevie, we did send it to you. So pollution control conditions are all standard conditions under that we always issue. Stormwater management conditions, 44, runoff from the rooftop and the driveway shall be managed as shown on the approved plans using 2 ADS StormTech SC 310 chambers. So the owner is responsible for maintaining that, and that will be required to be done in perpetuity. Riverfront area conditions, no filling or change of grade is permitted within the floodplain. The entire lot is in the floodplain. This condition shall continue in perpetuity and be noted in the certificate of compliance. The area beneath the existing house shall be left open to flood water flow through the system of storm vents. The new addition shall be open to flood water flow through the construction the construction technique of having it on pilings. That condition will also be in perpetuity. Then the area beyond the fence for the riverfront restoration area, 7 native high bush blueberries shall be planted within the limit. Within the limit of work is restoration of the riverfront area. I'm not sure what that means exactly. So I think we want those planted beyond the fence. At the rear of the property, beyond the chain link fence, where except for a 4-foot swath immediately behind the fence, we're requiring that the rest of be left to be restored. And then the request for certificate of compliance conditions are standard.
Okay. Any questions from the applicants on those conditions and findings?
Nope. We read we reviewed the documents that John had sent over, and I believe the question you had is that we had proposed a total of 7 shrubs beyond the existing chain link fence, but landward of the existing limit of clearing, with the intent of letting that just, grow naturally and no more mowing besides a 4-foot swath along the backside of the chain link fence, and we're okay with that.
Okay. So we now need, remind me the order of things here. We now accept the findings and conditions. Is that next, John?
Yes.
Okay. Can I have a motion to accept the findings and conditions? And this is only under the bylaw, correct? This one?
No.
No, this is under.
This is under both.
Okay. So can we have a motion to accept the findings and conditions for the notice of intent at 7 Freeport Drive to construct this residential addition, DEP 122664.
So moved, Gail.
Second, Don.
Okay. How do we vote? Gail,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Dawn.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. So the findings and the conditions have been accepted. We need a motion to approve the $3,500 bond. I have such a motion.
Correct. Correct. And then you'll also need a motion to actually issue the order of conditions under the Wetlands Protection Act.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I brought up the bond first, so let's do that. Motion for the approve the bond of $3,500.
So moved, Ed.
Second, Gail.
Okay. How do you vote? Gail,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
and Dawn.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. So the bond is approved at $3,500, and I need a motion to accept the or approve the and issue the order of conditions under the Wetland Protection Act for this project.
So moved, Gail.
Second, Ed.
Okay, let's do the vote. Gail,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
and Dawn.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. I think that completes our business here. So thank you very much, and good luck with your project.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Okay, next up.
Bill, would you mind if I interrupt?
No, go right ahead.
Thank you. I think there's a couple of people in the audience who might be here for the discussion on 127 Bedford Street, and we had to actually move that to the next meeting. So I didn't want them hanging around any longer than
Thank you.
necessary.
I did not know that. So the item, that's item number 11 on the agenda, the discussion of the installation of paver blocks in 127 Bedford Street has been continued to the next meeting.
Yeah, the representative couldn't make it tonight.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I didn't let you know that earlier if you were waiting for it. All right, so now we're on item number 8. We'll be opening a new public hearing, so I need to read the legal notice. Notice is hereby given that the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission will hold a virtual public hearing on Thursday tonight at 7:45 p.m. for this, make sure we're doing, I'll be at 7:45, yes we are. The purpose of the public hearing is to take all information related to a notice of intent filing by Sun Oak and In-Ho Lee for culvert replacement and restoration activities at 102R Wynn Street in Burlington. Proposed work would be within bordering vegetated wetlands, bank, locally regulated riverfront area, and the associated 100-foot buffer zones pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, which is the Wetland Protection Act, and Burlington Bylaw, Article 14. The Commission will review all information relative to this application and thereafter may issue an order of conditions and the Burlington Wetland Permit. This application may be viewed at the Conservation Commission website. Is someone here for that this evening? Anyone here for that? I'm not hearing anything. I can see
Sorry, I
some.
had to unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Mr. Dresser, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Okay.
Stephen Dresser, representing In-Ho Lee and the matter before you. This is a
Can I
project.
interrupt, Stephen?
Yeah,
Before we accept any information on this application, I need to read a letter that was sent to the chairman of our commission, Mr. Larry Cohen, when it was received today or late yesterday, I forgot which. And so this is addressed to Mr. Larry Cohen, Chairman, regarding 102R Wynn Street, Burlington, Mass. Dear Mr. Cohen, this letter is from Murray's Realty, Inc., signed by Daniel Murray, the president and treasurer. Dear Mr. Cohen, please be advised that I own the property shown on Burlington Assessor's maps as map 37, parcel 19-0. It is a vacant parcel of land. My land is immediately adjacent to a lot located at 102R Wynn Street. Got to put on my reading glasses so it's easier here. The owners of the 102R Wynn Street property have filed a notice of intent to replace a culvert and restore wetlands/stream bank, and the matter is on the Conservation Commission agenda for January 13, 2022. The culvert, which the property owner has destroyed and is now seeking permission to replace, is on my lot. I reviewed the application that was filed and I have two concerns. First of all, the applicant lists the owner of the adjacent lot, my lot, as Murray Hills. The actual owner is Murray's Realty, Inc., and I am the president and treasurer of Murray's Realty, Inc. I'd request that the application be revised to accurately reflect the actual owner of the adjacent parcel. Secondly, and more importantly, the application has several signature lines on which the affected property owner, parentheses me, is supposed to sign. I never signed the application, nor was I ever requested to sign the application. The signature line has a scribbled signature which purports to be the signature of the owner of the land. However, it is not my signature. The applicant or someone on his behalf either illegally signed my name to the application or just scribbled on it to mislead the Conservation Commission into thinking that the adjacent property owner had joined in the pending application. This is to advise that I did not sign the application. I am opposed to what the applicant has done to my land, and I strenuously object to this matter moving forward under false pretenses. In my opinion, the matter cannot be reviewed or adjudicated by the commission because it is not properly before the commission. I am unable to attend the hearing on Thursday night, so I wanted to make you aware of this situation before you take any action on the application. I would request that you inform the applicant that he cannot appear before the Conservation Commission under false pretenses, and the application has to be properly prepared and signed by the necessary parties. End of letter. So that just came in, and that changes things regarding our handling of this
I
application.
believe you ought to get our side of the story on this before you comment on that,
Sure.
if we can. All right, there is an easement on this. We've gone over this with Eileen and John on several occasions prior to this. There's an easement. He has a right of way that includes basically the right to do whatever would be done as per any public way. So Mr. Lee has a right to repair and replace anything necessary within that right of way. We have a legal opinion on that. It was shared with the staff several months ago. My understanding from Mr. Lee was that they had reached an agreement to purchase that property. I basically showed up tonight with that understanding. I don't know if that's fallen apart or whatever. Regardless of that, he has a right. He may own the property, but there's a valid easement on it that allows him to, basically repair. And we did share a legal opinion with staff on that. As far as the app, I mean, it's kind of a gray area, and that was probably something that should have been, maybe labeled different, but there's not a line on the notice of intent that says, someone who has an easement, basically. So he signed as the owner. He technically does not own the property, and that was a mistake, but he owns the right to the easement. And when the last I spoke to Eileen last week, I had suggested maybe we should get this cleared up before you guys take action on this.
Right.
However, again, Mr. Lee had indicated to me that they had reached an agreement, and we decided to move forward. So we can put it to bed and continue it and get this figured out if you want, or we can proceed with the meeting. It's up to you.
Well, I mean, your points that you make may be very valid, but the question here is whether the application itself is a valid application to be,
I
able to be
would
handled.
want it from our end, if there continues to be animosity, I guess there still is, I thought there wasn't, but certainly we wouldn't want it to be something that's easily appealable, so we would
Right.
also like the continuance,
Okay.
if that's the case. I don't know if Mr. Lee's here, maybe he could fill me in on what's going on with it. I think he's trying to speak, but
I think he's on mute.
I think he's muted.
We can't hear you, Mr. Lee.
Peter, you're on mute
At the bottom left, there's the mute button.
on the bottom of the screen. It says unmute. Sean, are you familiar with what's going on or not?
Yeah, so while he's trying to find his mute button, so when Mr. Murray dropped off the letter late this afternoon, he did indicate to me that he had reached agreement with Mr. Lee to sell the property to him, and I think the deal is imminent to close. So my recommendation would be to let these two parties complete their transaction and continue this for 2 weeks, and hopefully it'll be resolved by then.
I think that's the most prudent thing to do as well.
Would that still allow us to move forward with the enforcement of the culvert?
Yeah, we do have an enforcement order on it that basically we have permission to,
Right.
better word, permission to go in and replace it. I
Right.
believe it's the reason it hasn't been done is, with all the supply chain stuff and all that, it was, Mr. Lee ordered it immediately, but the delivery is coming in the next week or two.
Okay, may I step in?
It's
Can you
scheduled for
hear me?
January 17th.
Oh, there's Peter.
Yes, Mr. Lee, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, sir. My name is Peter Lee. I'm part of Inho, the one who owns the property. I am the owner of a Young Construction, and I'm a real estate developer myself, and I'm also engineer. And I have been numerous communication with Mr. Marie and recently. And last conversation I have had with his legal representative, I forgot the name, the lady, and she's preparing the final deal, which we agreed. And once that gets into my hand, we'll pay, and then she's supposed to hand over me the deeds for that partial that he's talking about disputing.
Okay. Thank you.
John, I would suggest if you could put that on hold for the 2 weeks to do that.
Thank you.
Just
Hold off
for
on the
your
installation of
just for your
culvert.
own protection.
Right. That's what I recommend to the board.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to make sure that everything is, as you said, not easily appealable or whatever, that we have a true and clear document. So then may I have a motion to continue this public hearing on the notice of intent for 102R Wind Street to replace culvert and restore wetlands and stream bank, DEP number 122666, until our next meeting on January 27th.
So moved, Don.
Second, Gail.
Let's go through a vote. Gail,
Yes.
Dawn, I lost my list I was going through. Here it is.
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. So thank you for being understanding and allowing us to continue this. The motion is approved to continue this hearing until January 27th. Thank you. I hope this all works out for you, Mr. Lee.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Bill, so you've already voted to continue the next one, 130 Lexington, but I see that there are people from the Islamic Center.
Okay.
At least one person.
I
I
will
thought
make
there
the
were
point.
two. Oh, no, there are two people here in the audience from the Islamic Center.
Yes, John, we are two. I'm Arif here.
Right.
Okay, well, I had mentioned at the very start of the meeting, and I'll mention it again, that this item has been, by request, continued until the next meeting on January 27th.
Okay, yeah, no worries. We are also waiting for some information from our site engineers.
Right.
All right.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Next up is item number 10. And I got another public hearing to read here. This is a new public hearing. So the notice of public hearing, notice is hereby given that the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission will hold a virtual public hearing tonight, beginning at 8:05. No earlier than, the purpose of the public hearing is to take all information relating to a notice of intent filed by Michael Casey for construction of a residential garage addition at 14 Spring Valley Road in Burlington. Proposed work would be within the bordering land subject to flooding and riverfront area pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, which is the Wetlands Protection Act, and Burlington Bylaw, Article 14. The commission will review all information relative to this application and thereafter may issue an order of conditions of Burlington Wetland Permit. The application may be viewed at the Conservation Commission website. Good evening. Is there someone here for this application at 14 Spring Valley Road?
Good evening. Yes, it's Mike Casey.
Hello, Mr. Casey. You want to give us a small introduction as to what the project is proposed, please?
Yes, and my apologies. My engineer is currently deployed. Luckily, he is locally deployed in Wisconsin and had intentions to make our meeting and unfortunately was unable to, or at least hasn't been able to get out of his previous meeting. So I will do my best, but I am not a developer, an engineer, or any of the established positions that everybody before me has been. I'm simply a homeowner. So yeah, very simply, we are attempting to add a garage with some space above it to our home at 14 Spring Valley. We are within the floodplain and have gotten great feedback already, although informally, from different members of the commission in reference to our proposed plan. As we are currently under the understanding that a normal foundation won't work within a floodplain, and had proposed to put essentially gaps in the foundation to allow any potential floodwaters to flow through. And although we've filed with Mass DEP, we have not yet gotten a file number and or comments from them. So my hope today, without anyone professional with me, would be to gather any comments that I could use to bring back to my either architect or engineer to potentially improve these plans for our next meeting, as well as any feedback that Mass DEP gives us to potentially move forward.
Great. You are a well-educated homeowner. You
Doing
understand the project very well. Okay, let's go to our staff for their input, please. John or Eileen?
Hi, I will just do a brief one on this. So as Sean, sorry, is it Sean? Sorry, explained, this entire site is within the riverfront, and it's also in the riverfront area to a stream. Just going to stop sharing and I'm going to pull up his. So as he explained, since it's all in the riverfront, this makes doing any sort of construction pretty tricky. If you're going to do construction, you need to provide flood to replicate the flood zone, which his architect or his engineer had put some numbers in the plan, but he wasn't showing where replication would occur. And let me just get the plan lined up. It's ready to go. As you can see, he was proposing to build the garage on the right-hand side of the existing house, fully in the flood zone and in the outer riparian. He was proposing to put some, I guess you would call them something like flood vents on two sides of the house, but that is not something that DEP would allow. So he and his architect are going to have to go back to the drawing board on this one a little bit. So my main concerns are that it's in the flood zone, and as designed, it isn't really permissible.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's see if there are comments from commissioners. Let's start with Dawn. Any comments, Dawn?
No, not at this time.
Jennifer?
No, not at this time.
Ed?
No, I'm zipping through the proposal again, but I can't see anything I want to add.
And Gail?
Yeah, I think the problem is that, you know, by having the foundation that you're potentially blocking any floodwaters. It's a difficult site. I mean, if you were to do something here, it kind of needs a redesign where, you know, you either had, if you're putting an addition on or something like that, it would have to be on footings and not with a foundation underneath it, so water could flow under it. And the problem with the design, with the openings that have been suggested for the garage part, that they're perpendicular to each other. So they have to be, you have to have openings that are in line with each other so that water can go from, you know, flow right through. And that's kind of difficult with a garage that's attached to a house. So those are kind of the challenges right here that I see.
Thank you, Gail. Yes, Gail's point is correct, that the rules say you have to have unimpeded flow of floodwater through the area that's encompassed here. And just to be clear, this is not a Burlington rule. It's not even a state rule, really, although it is itemized in the state regulations. This is a federal FEMA rule that, you know, regarding floodplain management. You know, the only approvals that we've given for things in a floodplain of something that is clearly off the ground, you know, like an addition that's on sonotubes or something like that. It's hard to do with a garage because of the weight of the cars and everything else that you have. That almost becomes a form of structured parking that may not be a zone for your area. So you're really going to have to look at some kind of a creative design or whatever, or maybe wait for comments that come back from DEP to see what they have to say. But I would be very surprised if DEP said that your current plan was acceptable. So are there any other comments from anyone? You know, it seems to me that we should continue this to the next meeting and see what kind of feedback and information you can get and design changes that you can come up with. Does that sound like a plan, John and Eileen?
I'm sorry. Yes, yes, it does.
Okay.
Can I make a comment as well?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Casey.
I've since the input informally in talking with the commission or some of the individuals in the commission, we've come up with a few different ideas not planned here, and it's hard for me to know what would be approved. But some of the comments today were unimpeded flow of water. I'd be interested, and others might already know this. I apologize for my lack of education here, but is there a certain height that unimpeded flow of water needs to be that maybe we can incorporate into a plan, or size, or is it? Does my question make sense? I think Gail had raised it.
Yes, the question makes sense. I would say that it is the elevation of the floodplain that must be clear from there, you know, at that elevation. Is that correct, John or Eileen? And if so, do you know what the elevation of the floodplain is at this location?
I will have to defer to John for the answer, but I can give you, I can try and find an estimate for the floodplain level. John will probably answer this one.
Well, the floodplain elevation should be on the plan. I'm not sure if it is or not, but I mean, the surveyor should have put the floodplain elevation on the plan.
It is. Yeah, it's 125 and a half feet, and my current elevation is 123 and a half ish. If that makes sense.
And that's the
Your
elevation of
elevation.
your floor of the garage?
That's the current elevation of the existing property, and would be the elevation of the garage as well.
Okay.
So there's about, just for clarification, and again, to bring this back to the professionals, there's a 2 to 3 foot difference somewhere in there between the elevation and of the proposed garage and the elevation of the floodplain, which makes sense. I can bring that information back. The other thing that was brought up was essentially that a foundation would be poured, right? Like a base for a car to park on, and that would be in the floodplain. Obviously, there's a compensatory storage conversation that typically happens, but in my conversations with wetland scientists, 0% of my property is above the floodplain. So there is nowhere that I could technically add compensatory storage for any areas that I take out, or if that makes sense, which again, I've got a lot more questions without the answers to it, I guess.
Okay.
No, you're absolutely right. So typically commissions find that the volume displaced by footings is so de minimis that they don't require that volume to be mitigated. If you're putting in 4 footings for an addition or for a garage, for say a carport or something like that, they may just find that amount of flood storage that was displaced doesn't need to be recreated. But if you build an enclosed structure, that's a lot of volume, and they cannot make that finding,
That feedback is really helpful, John. Thank you. And with footings in a carport, does that mean that the area on the ground would have to be something other than concrete, like a gravel or a?
No.
Okay.
No, it could be pavement.
Okay.
There would just be no restriction or impediment for the flow of water over it.
Right.
I understand. I feel like I've taken up too much time already. I don't know if there's any other comments, but I really appreciate it.
Thank you. That's what we're here for, Mr. Casey, is to make questions and then answer the ones that we can.
So
Okay.
this is once again a public hearing, Bill. I don't see anybody else in the audience, but you should probably just check.
Thank you. Is there anyone here in the audience for this application for a notice of intent at 14 Spring Valley Road? Okay, thank you very much. So we will continue this to our next meeting at January 27th. Can I have a motion to do that, to continue this, please?
So moved, Ed.
Second, Gail.
All right. How do you vote, Gail?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. This public hearing for the application at 14 Spring Valley Road to construct a garage is continued until January 27th. Thank you, Mr. Casey.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Item number 11 for the discussion about installation of paver blocks on 127 Bedford Street has been continued until our next meeting on January 27th. That brings us to item number 12, which is update and discussion on proposed revisions to the stormwater bylaw. John or Eileen, do you want to take the lead on that?
Sure. There's a chance that I didn't send you guys the update this afternoon. I thought I attached it and apparently I didn't. So I sent it to you guys just a little while ago. Sorry about that. I can share it just as I refresh people about some of the things that we're proposing to change. I sent it in an email earlier. So we're proposing to just change the name so that it would just be, oh, now I don't see it here. It would just be a storm, you know what, never mind, because this is, I'm not sure which version. I'm confusing myself with all my versions. Let me go back to the email that I sent you guys because it had the summary of the changes, and I'll just reread those so that I can refresh myself. Right, so we were changing the thresholds for an abbreviated hearing and a standard hearing. Some of these you guys have already heard, including a new threshold for additional impervious surface. Then a tweak to that is that we are proposing to require an engineer stamped plan for projects that propose an increase of more than 700 square feet of impervious, or for projects with a total land disturbance of 7,000 square feet or more, or for projects including any filling more than 6 inches. And this is going to be kind of a hybrid, so that will allow us to actually get just stamped plans on really quite small projects. But that way, as I think we've mentioned before, it just means that if there is a problem down the line, it's not so much on us to try and fix it or on the Board of Health. These guys can go back to their engineer. And then we've just clarified when material must be stamped by a PE. We've identified which rainfall data to use. We're talking about at least NOAA 14. We renamed it a stormwater permit throughout, and we've also extended the requirement for all projects. You know, almost all projects can be required to post a bond. So that way we actually just have a little bit more teeth when it comes to if something isn't done, we've got their bond to hold over them as well. I know you guys have heard some of these things before, and several of you have given input. If anybody like Jennifer or Dawn or Ed, anybody who hasn't chimed in yet, has any comments, we're open to it. We would like to get feedback as well, again, to meet again with the Board of Health, probably sooner rather than later, to make sure they're okay with this, because there's a certain overlap with stormwater. And I'm going to meet with the Bylaw Review Committee next week just to tell them that we're working on this, but we're not really ready yet for them to actually do a final polish, because we all have to be in agreement. So does anybody have any other comments for us?
I just want to point out that the motivation for this is because we would like to capture more of these smaller projects and make them at least have a public hearing. We're finding out about a number of these recently, us and the Board of Health, who was really quite upset about some of this stuff, is that some of these projects that are smaller, we don't hear about them until, after they're done and their abutters are complaining, and because there was no real public hearing up front. So we want to get more of them into a public hearing. And then the other feature was that when they do apply to us and they get an administrative approval for a smaller project, currently it's under 10,000 square feet, or under 20,000 square feet, I mean, is a administrative approval. There's really no process to go back and see an order of conditions, or have a bond to ensure that the work has gotten done, and someone goes back and inspects that it has been done. And then if it hasn't been done, as Eileen mentioned, by having more situations where they put in some kind of a drainage ditch or whatever, and it's not necessarily, it's a lot of them show a sketch, literally a hand-drawn sketch on a piece of paper. It's hard to say for certain whether it's going to work, and then if it doesn't work, who's responsible and all that stuff. So if we have more of those situations where an engineered stamp drawing is available, then if it does fail afterwards, it's the engineer who said it was going to work who is liable, and they can go after the engineer rather than the Board of Health or the Conservation Commission. So those are some of the issues that the Board of Health was concerned with as well. We did have a meeting with the Board of Health already and went over it with everybody's comments and have massaged it several times. Eileen, I think it would be helpful if you send a version showing all the changes, but also an up-to-date version with all the changes accepted. So it's just a clean read.
Oh, okay, I could do that. Yes, yeah. So you could do like a side by side of. Yeah. Sure.
It's hard to read sometimes with all the outlines and what exactly is the text that's going to be present now.
I can do that.
Yeah, I would find that useful. And we're not voting on this tonight, but we do need to have input from as many of you as possible at this latest revision so that we can get it closer and closer to the final version. And again, we'll work with the Board of Health to get their final comments as well. This will have to go before town meeting. Is that right, John? For
Yes.
approval at some point. So
Yep.
obviously it won't be in the town meeting in this January, but perhaps in the April town meeting, we can get it in if we get the final version in time.
Yeah, we'd like to. The last time around, the bylaw review committee spent some time just polishing it, but I'm hopeful that'll be faster this time because they were already. We're not changing the main structure.
Right.
So anyway.
Okay. Yep. But there is a deadline well before the town meeting for warrant articles to be submitted. So, you know, even though the town meeting is in May, you know, there's going to be a deadline April 1st or something that, you know, we have to get it submitted. So please get some comments in as soon as you can when you get the latest draft. Any other thing that we need to discuss on this, John or Eileen, at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I got something I want to just clear my head.
Yeah.
When I read this,
Your audio is breaking up, Ed. Ed, we're not getting the audio
probably
clear.
help me because he knows about it. How does the beaver control things?
Ed, we're not able to understand what you're
Yeah,
saying.
built it.
Your audio is breaking up and we're getting bits and pieces.
I see the screen's gone crazy here. That's weird.
Ed, in case you can hear us, we can't hear you, but if you put your message in the chat, maybe we can address it and we can continue. Oh. What? Will John?
I'll give you a call, John.
I will call
You
John.
can hear
We'll
me.
call John, it says, yeah.
Okay, call me tomorrow.
Yeah, get any comments that you can get in will be helpful. Then. All right, anything else on this topic? Okay, then we'll close that and we'll continue that at the next meeting.
I don't know what's happened.
It's just the audio was breaking up and we couldn't get the full sentences.
Go ahead.
All right, so now the next items 13, 14, and 15 regarding Redmond Street.
Lost all voice.
4 Redmond and 5 Redmond have all been continued to the next meeting. And it sounds like they will actually show up for the next meeting to try to move those projects forward. Which brings us now to administration. What's happening? Do we have any planning board comments?
No.
Any subcommittee or staff reports or updates? Nope. Okay, now we're on to other business. So discussion, the Board of Appeals application for frontage variance for the rear Chandler Road access from the end of Drake Road. I appeared in person and others appeared via remote access for the Board of Appeals hearing the other day and presented our case. But since we presented our case as to requesting why they should not approve this variance, the main issue being, well, there's a couple of issues. One is that the frontage does not equal the 100 feet that's necessary, and that's the particular variance they're requiring. But almost the entire frontage that they want to use, the 54 or 56 feet, is wetland. So, you know, not only is it short and not wide enough, but you have to physically fill wetland to get onto the property through that pathway. and the other pathways are surrounded by existing properties or existing houses or conservation land. And then, of course, the fact that this property is of great value to the environment. It's a very nice property. It has a couple of wetlands, one at each end of the property, basically heavily wooded. Has existing trail that's been there for years and years, used by people, and is contiguous with the conservation property. And is one, if you just look at the aerial photo there, it's one big continuous living, breathing forest. So we, because we had not had a chance to discuss this at a conservation meeting officially, when we spoke at the meeting the other night, we did so as individuals and not representing the commission, because the commission hadn't discussed and officially voted on, whether we wanted to send a letter to contest this application for a variance. So that's what we're here for tonight, is to discuss it and approve the submission of a letter. Now, Gail helped by drafting a letter that we can use, and she sent it to all of you. Hopefully you've had a chance to read it. And I will now open it up for discussion on the contents of that letter that we will send as a committee to the Board of Appeals prior to their next meeting, which is next week on, I forget whether it's Tuesday or Wednesday. So, does anyone have any comments or changes to the letter? Let me go around. Gail?
Oh, no, I don't have any changes, but if you're not familiar with this property, a couple of us were on site visits went to see it. It is at the end of a cul-de-sac on Drake Road off of Chandler, between two houses at the end where there's a fire hydrant. And there's a wetland there that I've walked that area a lot, just on the street and in the woods as well. But it's I've always seen it to be a functional wetland. It's not a place that, people would question as a wetland. And because it has such a narrow frontage there, most of the property goes back and up a hill into the woods, and then back, bisecting a trail on the, that's part of the Mill Pond Conservation Area. In fact, if you look at the Mill Pond trail map, unfortunately, part of one of the trails is actually on this parcel, which I think when the trail was created, it was unknown that it was private land. But it abuts at the other end another wetland that's on conservation land. It's an area that if it's possible, that if it's for the town to purchase, would be an incredible, great addition to the sawmill, the Mill Pond Conservation Area. And also Bill, can attest to this, that when the Board of Appeals had their meeting, it wasn't just us that were there to speak about this property and how important it was. There were lots of people from the neighborhood that, were concerned about everything from water runoff to just, kind of losing that buffer that to the conservation area. If you were walking in the conservation area and this was developed, it would really change the experience, because you would, be walking along in this really peaceful, beautiful area, and all of a sudden there'd be a house. It just would be a really important parcel to be able to try to get the town to buy, if possible, if it's possible, to add to the conservation area. So I encourage you, if you haven't seen it, to walk the trail, or at least go out to the end of Drake and look at it.
I'd like to point out that if you hadn't had a chance to watch the meeting at the Board of Appeals, the attorney representing the builder, and the builder was also says he plans to live on the property. The attorney, Murphy, was saying that the alternative to, if it's denied, to put a long driveway and a single house on this property, is that the alternative would, instead of putting a driveway, would be to extend the road into the property all the way down to the wider end and put in a cul-de-sac with 2 or 3 houses. Now, he showed no plans that that was even feasible, but that was his way of putting leverage on us having to approve the smaller project. And it also appeared that the sentiment of the Board of Appeals was going to be to probably approve this variance on affecting the 100-foot requirement to be allowed to be only 56 foot. There's also an application that's going to have to go in front of the planning board because there is some alteration to the existing cul-de-sac that would require their approval. It's not clear, but probably my feeling would be unlikely that they would disapprove of that either, in which case it would fall into our laps. And that was basically one of the sentiments of the Board of Appeals is like, well, we can approve it, and if conservation has issues, well, they can deal with it. So if it did come before us and we had a legitimate denial of it, which we would discuss that in, when they come forward with an application, then, it would, the way it's set up right now is the owner, which I believe is Murray Hills, has a purchase and sales agreement, which is contingent on it being approved by at least the Board of Appeals. I'm not sure if it's contingent on everybody's approval. So if it does not get approved, then the purchase and sales is no longer valid, which would then free it up perhaps to have Mr. Murray consider selling it to the conservation. This letter contains some wording that says we would very strongly like, if it became available, to make a motion to buy it, and that would involve us putting a warrant article to town meeting to get them to say the town would spend the money to buy the property, and of course, working with the landowner to establish a fair and equitable price. We're not trying to steal the property, we would hopefully give him a value that the property would be worth in its current state. So that's kind of what's going on here. Any other comments? Ed, anything? Ed,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Still,
All right. Dawn?
Yeah, I think the letter was extremely well crafted. I agree with it completely. And I think we need to keep paying close attention, which we are doing, to proposals like this that incorporate things like building a road across the wetlands. It would seem that it does pose an existential threat to the wetlands, and I think it could be well documented, and we'll see what happens. But I think it was a very well crafted letter.
Thank Gail for that.
Well, Larry had and Bill started the bones of it.
One part of this that when it does come in front of us, if they are proposing to fill the wetlands, replication would be required, and the replication has to be on the same property with the same hydrology, and that may not even be feasible on this property from the way it's set up and how narrow the property is at the wetland end. And if we go there today, that narrow wetland end, as soon as where the driveway goes in, would be immediately goes uphill. So, to try to replicate it further down the property may not be the same hydrology as well. So there are some issues that would perhaps preclude us from being able to approve it easily. It's somewhat different from the Redmond site that's coming up next week, next meeting, and that, they're going to make an entrance that goes over wetlands as well, but their property is bigger and there may be opportunities to do a replication on site and meet the rules of the game. I'm not sure that would be the case on this property.
Bill, this is Gail again. I also just want to make the point that, some people might say that, why didn't we look into this before? That I think this is a property that unfortunately everyone looked at and never thought it would be developed because there is no frontage there, that there is no access. And so I think it's, something that was probably, and I might be wrong, I could be corrected, but that was considered to be, something we didn't have to worry about. And again, I think it would be great if we could, if whatever happens, if there was an opportunity, if things change and there was an opportunity to purchase it, because it would add to existing conservation land, and that, there's just not much land left in Burlington to purchase, and this would just add to a really, one of our best sites in town.
This is where I interject my public service announcement for the Community Preservation Act. We're in the, Larry and I are both on the committee to try to get that approved, and Jennifer's been contributing as well. That is, something that has funds in it, just specifically for, preservation and acquisition of open space. So if that was in the case, one of the attendees at the meeting the other night who spoke, one of the abutters, he approached me after the meeting and he says, "Why don't you just use that Community Preservation Act thing?" And it's like, that would be nice if we had it, but we don't have it, And so, and he pointed out that he might have been from Bedford, but at one time he was the town assessor in his town, and he dealt with that CPA all the time and thought it was wonderful. So unfortunately, it's not going to be applicable for this piece of property, but that, even if it were, it still would have to go before town meeting for them to approve the spending of it, whether it's from the town budget, which it would be here, or from what someday might be a CPA application. Okay, any other comments about this? If not, I can move to taking a motion. The way the letter is set up, rather than going around and trying to chase signatures from every commission member, I have set it up that the letter states that, assuming that this passed unanimously at the most recent commission meeting, and it will be signed as my signature, and then I will scan it and distribute it to the Board of Appeals and the applicant and property owner representative, as we did with the individual letter that Larry had sent in previously. We used the same distribution as we had on that. So can I have a motion to approve this letter to the primary addressee as the Burlington Board of Appeals to advocate for their not approving the variance for the entrance to this property?
So moved.
Okay.
Second, Jennifer.
All right. So let's have a vote, please. Ed, how do you vote?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So we do have unanimous board approval to send this letter. I will print it, sign it, and scan it, and send it on its merry way tomorrow. John, do you think, or Eileen, do you think it's better if I sign it and scan it and send it to you, and then you send it under your, I don't know, your email address rather than my personal one? So does it look more,
we can do that.
yeah, I think it looks more formal that way.
Okay.
I will do that. Okay, so that takes care of that other business item. There's one other business, and that is to vote to accept the deed for Mill Pond Estates Lot 4. John or Eileen, can one of you discuss that issue?
Sure. As you recall, this is the small subdivision, 3-lot subdivision on Chandler Road. It's actually a 4-lot subdivision, 3 houses and 1 lot that they're giving to the Conservation Commission. And we've already, let's see, Rob Bosso's here, I see in the audience. He created a new trail off Chandler Road to replace a trail that was lost when they built the Mill Pond Lane roadway. So now they're ready to actually deed it over. This is the first step. The selectmen have to accept it as well. But once the selectmen, and we'll have town council review the deed as well, but once the selectmen approve it, and then we can get it recorded and it belongs to the town.
For the sum of $1.
I think that's just a technicality, I think.
Yeah. We have to go to town meeting to get approval to spend that $1. Okay, so are there any other discussion for that item? It has been pretty much gone over at the approval of the subdivision.
Right.
And just as an aside, that was something that Larry was pointing out could end up being proposed for the Drake Road thing, is that they could end up proposing, we'll build this house on the left half of the property and then deed restrict the right half of the property or something like that as a compromise. Or, we'll see, but something like this could end up coming out of that as well. All right, can I have a motion to vote to accept the deed for the Mill Pond Estates Lot 4?
So moved, Gail?
Second it.
Don,
All right, how do you vote, Gail?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Dawn?
yes.
And the chair votes yes as well. So we accept the deed. Thank you very much. Are there any other discussion items?
Now that I'm back on, can I hit John with a question on the stormwater management?
Yes.
Does the beaver issues come up into play in this document?
No.
Okay. That's all I needed to know.
Okay. I'm glad you finally got that in, Ed.
I'm sorry I had the audio problems.
Okay, so if there is nothing else from the panel here,
Before we adjourn, can I just remind everybody that town hall is closed on Monday for the holiday. So if you got, we're going to need you to sign sheets either tomorrow or Tuesday. Okay.
thank you for
Thank you.
bringing that up because I never remember until somebody says, hey, where are you? So I'm making a sticky to put on my computer right now, signed documents. Okay. So in that case, next meeting is January 27th and followed by one on February 10th. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved it.
Second, Gail?
All right, let's vote. Gail?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
And with enthusiasm. And Dawn?
Yes.
Okay, and the chair votes yes as well. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. It was a good meeting.